If you or someone you know might be a little bit older in life, very comfortable situation, and they think maybe they should just leave everything the way it is, they may be leaving good opportunities on the table by not taking action. So what we're going to go through today is Mike and Beth Delaware to show us just how extra intentional actions can possibly aid either that individual or that family, or especially the generations to come. So when we look at Mike and Beth's situation, we made a very simplified situation here. So they just have one checking account. They have one taxable investment account, so this is their non-retirement investment account, $1 million in an IRA, and then a home. So very, very simple situation overall. But what seems simple actually has a lot in the way of opportunities. In this scenario, Mike and Beth are later on in life, they're around 80 years old, and so the easy thing to do would just be to not touch anything and just kind of let everything play out, and whatever goes to the next generation goes to the next generation. But there are a couple things that jump out on this piece of paper that Mike and Beth might really want to be paying attention to. So the first thing here, when we jump down to their IRA, they have an IRA. They do not have any Roth IRAs. Their regular IRA is tax deferred, meaning that when they put money into it, they got a tax deduction. And now in retirement, when they take money out, then is when it gets taxed. That's when the government gets its tax money. So one of the strategies that some people use is what's called a Roth conversion. So you have this $1 million IRA, and if you do nothing, at some point your kids are going to inherit that. When they inherit that, they're going to have 10 years, as based on the current rules, to take all of that money out. When the kids take the money out, it's all taxable at their income rates. So let's say you passed away and your kids are still working, they're making more money than they ever did before. They're going to have to add on a lot of additional income on top of that, and it's going to go in at their highest tax bracket, might even push them to a higher tax bracket. So a Roth conversion is taking part of this IRA money, moving it into a Roth IRA, and how do we pay the tax on it instead? We can pull it from their non-IRA accounts. So this is a great opportunity to try to realize some of this IRA now, when the parents in this case are alive, pay some of the tax at probably lower income tax rates than their children will be at, and save the kids a lot in the way of tax money, more money going to the kids, less money going to the government. Another thing here is, let's say that they have grandchildren and they might want to help out with the grandchildren. The way all these assets are set up right now, pretty much very, very little at least is going through the will. So the IRA has direct beneficiaries on it. It's not going to go through the will. The TOD account here, that stands for transfer on death, that's probably also going to the children, not the grandchildren, so directly through the will. If Mike and Beth are wanting assets that are going to pass on to the grandchildren for education or otherwise, there's a couple different ways they can do that. One would be to add them on as direct beneficiaries. Two would be to add them into the will, but again, the will is only going to have assets that directly pass through it. In this case, that would be only the checking account and their real estate, assuming the real estate is not in a trust or something like that. So how they want to maybe help their grandchildren would also be a conversation point that's on here that's specific to Mike and Beth. Maybe for the TOD account here, they're not wanting it to be distributed in this way. Maybe they want it to go through the will for the parents, for the grandparents, to say when the assets can specifically go on. Maybe creating a family trust now makes sense. But there's a lot of different pieces here that you could see that could easily be talked about to say, hey, Mike and Beth, what are you guys wanting to do with your situation? How do you want to see these assets transfer on to the next generation? Do you have goals that are just kind of to leave everything the way it is? Would you rather to have, let's say, less in taxes for the future generations to come with the Roth conversions? Would you like assets to definitely pass on to the grandchildren for college or otherwise, instead of passing on to your kids, where your kids may or may not use it for those purposes that you may wish? So that's where, when we jump into that advanced planning situation, we can now go through these kind of items with them in a one-on-one planning scenario. So maybe they want to spend more money. Maybe they don't know that they have as much money as they do and that they can really do more living. So maybe it's gifting to kids now, gifting to grandkids, family vacations, all that kind of stuff. We can look at long-term care. Do you have long-term care type of insurance? Do you want to try to protect your assets from that kind of an event, either through insurance, through maybe trust, through maybe retitling the assets so they're not jointly registered, they're under one or the other, so things of that nature. And then, like we said before, the grandchildren. In this case, we have grandchildren, so what if you want to pass money on specifically for education? Do you want to trust your kids to just kind of use it in the way that you want? Or do you want to specifically designate it to be able to do some of those items? So education for grandchildren as well. And that's where you can really get in. How does that affect my expenses, my cash flow? Can I afford to do some of these things that are above because I'm not living on all my assets? Secure income, how that affects all the taxes. So a lot of different things that you could go through. So what seems again like a very simple situation may be chock full of opportunities. And that's why you want to make sure that you're looking at it, asking yourself those questions. What do I want to see my assets do, either for me or for the generations to come? So thanks for joining me today, and more planned shares are on the horizon.